everyone! So this video is another video in my bridal series. If you have not seen any of my others, I will have those links down in the description below. But if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that will notify you every single time I upload a video. If you are watching this video and you do believe you are already a subscriber, go ahead and check and make sure, because I know YouTube is starting to automatically unsubscribe people from channels, which is absolutely crazy, so just make sure you are still subscribed to my channel. Also, I ask if you enjoy this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. But the video I will be doing today is all about your wedding and should you have an unplugged wedding. Now, if you don't know what that means, having an unplugged wedding means asking your guests to just completely turn off their cell phones, not allowing them to take any photo, any video, nothing, just completely unplugged. And the reason for doing that is because photographers want to be the main one taking the photos. And what a lot of people are starting to notice is in the background of wedding photos, there are people snapping photos with their phone, with a camera. There's always people in the background, and the main purpose for trying to have an unplugged wedding is so that no one jumps in front of the photographer. Now, my first thing I want to say about that is there should not be a single guest at anyone's wedding who would actually jump in front of a photographer to take a photo. Now, I do know that sometimes you don't know where the photographer is because the photographers like to kind of stay in the background. So I do understand why some guests may accidentally get in front of the camera. Anyway, my opinion is going to be a little bit different than ones that you may have been reading recently. I know it's like a huge thing that a lot of brides are asking all of their guests to just completely unplug everything. No cameras, no phones, nothing. And I understand why brides feel the need to say that or to have an unplugged wedding, but I'm here to tell you all of the cons to that because there are several cons to having an unplugged wedding. So that is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. I'm going to let you guys know why I think having an unplugged wedding is not the best idea and all of my experiences and why I feel the way that I do. So the first thing that I want to point out when it comes to this new craze of having an unplugged wedding is photographers are the ones who have made that a big thing. And the reason being is because when you hire a photographer, they are obviously doing their job, but their number one priority is to build their portfolio. And that is just the honest truth about it. I've worked in the industry before. Photographers are not necessarily doing it to capture every single moment for you. They're wanting to have the next big photo and they want to obviously blow up their business. Their main reasoning for it and what they're thinking constantly is, will this be the next big thing? You know, they're just wanting to build a portfolio obviously so they can get more clients. So a lot of photographers are the ones coming out saying, yes, have an unplugged wedding. That way they don't have to see a bunch of people snapping photos in the background of the photos that they're taking. Now, I do understand that reasoning. You know, they may ruin the photo by either jumping in front of the photographer or they're in the background just snapping a photo and it just will ruin the perfect moment photograph. Now, I completely understand that, and I understand where the bride and the photographer would be extremely frustrated by that. However, as someone who has already been married, I have no problem when I see photos of someone taking pictures in the background. This is the other thing I should say. That is very few. I did not have an unplugged wedding. I let people take tons of photos and tons of pictures, and I think mainly it's because a lot of photographers, when they're doing wedding photography, they have an aperture setting on, which means the background of their photos are blurry, just kind of like how my video is right now. The background is going to be blurry, so you're only going to see kind of like a little figure of someone snapping a photo, and I never had a problem with that, and the photos that I do have of that are very far in between. There's really only a few photographs I have where you can see people in the background taking photos of me, but I feel like that just makes it more real and more raw. I can understand if you're trying to do pose shots, that is really frustrating having people in the background obviously taking pictures, but if you're just doing documented photography, it's really not that big of a deal. So having already been married, I am totally cool with the photos I got back with people in the background snapping pictures. It's really not that big of a deal. Now, my main purpose of doing this video is because while I believe phones should absolutely be silenced, there should be no one's phone going off during your ceremony, which thankfully that didn't happen at mine. There should absolutely be no excuse for someone having their phone on to where it goes off at the ceremony or during speeches or anything. All phones really should be silenced, but my point of actually making this video is to say that I believe people should be taking photos at your wedding. Guests should be allowed to take photos at your wedding, and this is kind of why I feel they should. The first reason being, You want those candid photos. You want to be able to go through your photographs and be able to relive your wedding day over and over and over. And there are some times that your photographer is focused solely on the bride and groom, but maybe your nephew or niece are in the background totally causing a ruckus, doing something funny. You're going to want to see those photographs to laugh at, because if you're taking your wedding so serious, where like everything has to be serious, chances are you're going to bore yourself and you're also going to bore your guests. So allow the kind of chaotic stuff to go behind the scenes and look at photographs and just laugh about it. You want to be able to see all of the stuff that goes on that you're not personally able to see. When the bride and the groom leave with the photographer to go take photos and you're doing your bridal shots, you know, out for an hour during cocktail hour, you have no idea what's going on during cocktail hour. So it's really nice to be able to see those photographs from the guests. You want to be able to see what were they doing, what were they eating, how was the food, how were they acting. You know, that's usually the time the guests usually take pictures of each other, and it's really nice being able to see what guests were there. I like to be able to see photographs that my photographer couldn't take. I like to be able to go back and see those photographs. It's actually my favorite part about the entire thing, is I get to see those photographs that my photographer didn't get to take. Now, in all actuality, if you have a huge thing against certain photographs having people in the background taking pictures of the photographer, taking pictures of you, if you don't like that in the background, you know, your aunt is sitting there snapping a ton of photos, you can ask the photographer to Photoshop it out, or just do it yourself. The person being in the background, they could be Photoshopped out if worse came to worse. So don't be upset if you have to ask your photographer to do that. You may have to pay for them to do a little bit more touch-ups, but most of the time photographers are going to be okay with that. Now, this is probably one of my main reasonings for loving the fact that I did not have an unplugged wedding. I had a lot of guests who had the iPhone 6S or above, so like the 6S, the 6S Plus, or the 7 or the 7 Plus. And so why that is so awesome is because those phones have live photos. So when you look at those, if you don't have an iPhone or you've never seen live photos, basically what the iPhone does is it takes a few seconds before and after the time you clicked the take a photo button. It will make a very short video. It's kind of like 4 or 5 seconds in length, but you can see like a whole video, and it includes audio. So it's almost like, although they took a photo, they almost took a video for you as well. And that has probably been my favorite thing to look at, even above my professional photos. Looking at the live photographs has been amazing, because so many people were snapping photos during our vows and snapping photos, you know, during really special moments, and I'm able to see video clips of that. So I'm able to go through there and I'm able to see all that, and that is probably one of the coolest things. The guests didn't even realize they were taking live photos. They just thought they were taking photos. And so I'm able to see all of that, which is so special to me. I am obsessed with those photos. It's just really special, and like one of the main reasons why I'm totally for plugged weddings. Another really cool aspect is you get to see the whole wedding through like the guest's eyes. When you plan your wedding, brides, a lot of times you're planning for the guests. You're not even planning for yourself. The whole day is so that your guests are impressed and they're having a good time, and really when you plan a wedding, you're planning it for your guests. So it's kind of nice to be able to see from a guest perspective. What are they looking at? Like my sister, she snapped a bunch of pictures of the centerpieces and of the decor, and then this guest, they snapped a bunch of pictures of family members, or, you know, when we had our first dance or something like that. They snapped those types of things, and it's just really nice to be able to see from a guest perspective how the wedding went and how the wedding looked and how it felt from their viewpoint. And that, I think, is really cool. You can see it from all angles. You know, at the ceremony, I have people from this side who sent photos, people from that side who sent photos. I get to see everything. I got to see from both sides how we looked and how we presented ourselves, and I think that's a really cool thing to look back on. One thing you have to know is your wedding day is that. It's one day. And when it comes to photos, that is the only thing that makes your wedding day last a lifetime. You can look back on those photos every day if you want to. And so having the photographs is really what keeps the wedding and that feeling and that celebration alive. I look at my wedding photos every single day. And to be honest, I don't even look at my professional ones, I look at the guest photos. Now, this is not to say that a professional photographer is not necessary, because yes, the photography is the #1 thing you should really focus on and spend a good amount of time finding the perfect photographer. So I'm not saying don't get a professional photographer, because that is the most important part of it. I'm just saying, asking your guests not to take photos is not, in my opinion, the best idea, because you now have way more photos to look through. I have, honestly, you guys, my photographer alone took about 700 photos. From my guests, I got another like 700, 800 photos. So in total, I have almost 2,000 photos from my wedding. And you better believe I go through every single one of them and just cry, or I'm taken back to that day. Those photos are extremely special to me. And yeah, there's like 2,000 of them, but each one of them means a ton to me, and they're all extremely, extremely special to me. Honestly, there's a ton of photographs too that are my absolute favorite, and it wasn't even one that my photographer took. So I got free photos of my favorite photos that a guest took, not even my photographer. You can't put all the stress on your photographer per se to get every single moment. My photographer got every single moment I would want her to get. However, a lot of my favorite ones were ones that my guests took, and the reason why I think guests are really good at taking photos for you is because they know you better. They know what type of photos you would want, what you would want captured, how you're feeling. They know when you're being raw and in the moment, and they're gonna capture that photo, and they're going to be able to enhance it in a way. It's very strange, but the person behind the camera really does matter, because they know what angle to get. They know how to capture you. Not saying a photographer does not, but for whatever reason, my guest photos are really most of my favorite ones. Again, I love my photographer photos. Those are amazing. They're literally, every time people look at them, they're like, I felt like it came from a magazine, and they do. They're incredible. But there are just certain photos that I'm like, wow, this is so good. And I think it's because it's just candid. It's just raw. It's just real. And it's what the guests saw. It's nothing touched up. It's nothing like, the lighting is not touched. It's just raw and real and in the moment, and it means so much, and I love it. Another thing that is pretty cool about allowing your guests to take photos at the wedding is you get those photos like that. You can ask them to send them to you in that moment. There's different apps where they can upload them, and you can look at them your wedding night. You can ask them to text it to you, airdrop it to you, whatever. You get them immediately. Most of your guys are not gonna sit there and edit the photos. Whereas your photographer, they spend about a month or two editing your photos, making sure they get all the perfect ones. You don't get them for about 2 to 3 months. I just got my wedding photos like a few weeks ago. So that's about 2 months before I even got my wedding photos. So if I didn't have any from the guests, I would have nothing to be looking back on. I would be extremely depressed, because I want photos to look at, especially like the week like you're on your honeymoon, and like the following weeks from your wedding, you're still in that like really buzz state of mind where you're like so peppy and you're so happy. You want those photos to look back, and they are pretty important to have during that time. So allowing your guests to take the photos, you'll have photos to look at, and you don't have to wait months and months before you can even see how your wedding looked. Now, the next thing's not gonna be for everyone, but if you do allow your guests to take photos, you can have Snapchat filters, which I did have. I did make a Snapchat filter. It's very, very inexpensive, and it's worth it. So many people use the Snapchat filter, and I just look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's kind of dorky, but at the same time, it's awesome. People used it, and I loved it. I thought it was so cool, because they post it onto their social media, and they would have the little filter on. I'm like, that's my wedding. It's just kind of cool. I don't know, it was a cool feeling. And then also on Instagram, it can make you feel special, because they'll use your hashtag. And when they use your hashtag, you're able to go back and look through all of those photos, and you almost feel like special, because they're like, yeah, everyone's using your hashtag. Not everyone's gonna be into that, but I thought it was pretty cool, so that's another perk to it. So the last and final things I just want to note is allowing guests to take photos really also helps the guests feel like they're part of the wedding, and not like they're a worker or a vendor, but it makes them more interested into the wedding. If they're not allowed to have like their phone on, and they're not allowed to be taking pictures, a lot of times they're just gonna be sitting there, and they're gonna be a little bit bored. But you know, like when you go to a concert, like you really just want to take a photo, or you want to take a video, or you want to capture every single moment. Your guests are allowed to feel that way at your wedding. Like, at least they should feel that way. You want them to be excited. You want them to be like, oh my gosh, I need to remember this forever. You know, if you want to rob your guests of that, I just feel like they're not able to really enjoy the wedding. I don't know. I'm not saying that having an unplugged wedding is just completely dumb and stupid and lame, but having an unplugged wedding, you're really robbing yourself of a lot of awesome memories. So getting a little bit personal here, I just love being able to go through all the photos where I get to see family members, you know, taking pictures of one another, or, you know, family members goofing off and they send me pictures of that, or, you know, whether the bride and groom are even in the photos, the whole day is a celebration kind of for everyone, and they should be allowed to enjoy that, and they should be allowed to take pictures of one another and take group photos, and, you know, even the ceremony itself, like a lot of people want to take selfies like sitting there, and to tell people not to. Again, I don't want to sit here and say it's bad, because I know a lot of brides are trying to switch to that, and I know a lot of brides, when they're saying an unplugged wedding, they really just mean an unplugged ceremony. I do understand that, but doing that, you're just robbing yourself of a lot of photos. That's all I'm gonna say. Having my wedding over and done with, I can't emphasize and stress enough how important and how amazing having my guest photos really mean to me. Think of how you're gonna feel after the wedding. The wedding day, you may be annoyed seeing people up in your face taking photos, you know, just kind of all over the place, everyone snapping photos. Instead of seeing their face, you're seeing a camera. Sure, that may feel that way the day of. I never felt that way, but maybe some brides would. Just know they're taking pictures that are going to last a lifetime. You're now going to be able to see these photos for the rest of your life, and you can't relive your wedding day. You just can't. So having these photos are really important, and having these videos too. When I say photos, I mean it also with video. I think it's a really smart idea to ask your guests to take video. That's one thing I wish I kind of did. I wish I even displayed a sign that said, please take photo and video, because if there's anything I'm lacking for my wedding, it's like video content. There's a bunch of things that I really wish got videotaped. I wish I asked the DJ to, at certain times of the night, say, hey, everyone grab your cameras, take a video of certain moments. I wish I had done that, but I didn't. So that's kind of a tip for you guys. Maybe if you do want video of certain parts, ask your DJ to announce, hey, can everyone grab their camera? Hey, everyone grab the camera. You don't want to miss this. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to say that any bride is wrong for wanting an unplugged wedding. I am not in any way, shape, or form trying to say a photographer is unimportant, because honestly, they're the most important part of the wedding in my opinion. Just don't rob yourself and don't sell yourself short. So that's all I want to say. If you guys have any opposing opinion, or you guys believe differently, leave comments down below so that people can interact, and new brides who are trying to plan their wedding, new brides can see from all different types of perspectives, because I really believe doing your research is extremely important when it comes to planning your wedding. You want to know from everyone's experience. You don't want to know while brides are planning the wedding, because I don't feel like that's really good advice. You want to know after the wedding is over, said, and done, what the brides appreciated, what they thought were mistakes, or you just want to learn from someone who's already said and done. If you do have any other opinions though, do leave them down below, but let people know whether you're in the process of planning your wedding or you're already done with your wedding. So anyway, that is it. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know if there's any other videos you guys want to see, whether it's bridal, lifestyle, beauty, whatever you want to see. Let me know down below. Subscribe to my channel if you did enjoy. Also, you can follow me on all my social media networks. I'm on all your favorite ones, so make sure you check the description below. And that is it. I love you guys. I will see you guys in my next video. Take care, everyone.